Welcome back to my channel. This is Nikki of Nikki's Homemade Crafts. Welcome to part one of the corner to corner mystery crochet along. Let's go through a couple of the materials real quick. I have a 4.5mm hook, but you can totally go a little up or a little down. That's totally fine. In case you don't have a 4.5, you can use a 4 or 5 depending on your tension. So I have about medium tension depending on what hook I'm using. So if you have loose tension, you probably want to go up a little. If you have tight tension, go down a little bit. Just that you have roughly 4.5. The gauge doesn't matter too much. I'm more aiming for the size, okay? But it should work out fine because there's some stretching anyways in corner to corner. I'm using Premier yarn, Momenti. I have one skein of that. We're not using the entire thing, but most of it. And then we also have Premier's Anti-Pilling yarn. I'm using white here. You're using a little bit more than one skein. However, there are some adjustments you can do in part 3 where you may use one color more than the other, but I used a lot of this, most of it, pretty much almost all of it, and then I used a little bit more than one skein. This is why I asked you to get 2. So that's what we're going to use, and in part 1 you're only going to start with this one. So it's going to be fairly easy, no color changes just yet. We're starting out easy and we're going to make a rectangle. So for part 1, you're going to make this rectangle in corner to corner using double crochet stitches. Now, I'm not going to make the entire rectangle here on camera. That is very repetitive and it would be very boring for you. So instead, I'm going to make a teeny tiny version of it so I can focus more on the teaching. So think of quality over quantity here. Just to let you know, this pixel graph is on my website as well as my membership, depending on whether you have the free version with ads or the ad-free version. You're going to make a 9 times 20 pixel. So that's what you're going to make. However, in order to teach you how to do corner to corner, in case you're a brand new beginner, I'm going to use this small little pixel graph to teach you how to do that, okay? So let's start with the basics. We're going to start here in this one corner. If you're lefty, you can just, mirror this entire thing. There are Chrome extensions you can use it's called Video Mirror, to mirror the entire thing. So no worries about that. You can easily start on another corner. It's the same concept, okay? So the idea is you're going to start somewhere on a corner. So I like to start on the bottom right corner, and then I will work my way out to the other corner. So I'm going from bottom right to top left corner, okay? So if you're lefty, it would be bottom left to top right. Really doesn't matter because you can flip this back and forth. There's no writing on this. Okay, so on the right side and on the bottom for me, if I'm on that side, either of them, that's going to be the increasing side, okay? So increasing means you're going to make a chain of 6 when you are on the edge, okay? So on the edge of it, you're going to make a chain of 6. And then for decreasing, you're making 3 slip stitches, okay? When you are at the edge. That is only one time, okay? So one time you're going to do that because there's only one edge, right? If you are in the middle of it, you're going from one pixel to another. So this will be one middle point right here, or here, or here, 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 or here. Any of these in-between points, you're not on the edge, you're going to make a chain of 3. So chain of 3 if you're in the middle of it, okay? So any point here where you're not on the edge. So that's fairly easy to remember, right? Now it may look a little bit hard in the beginning to figure out where you are, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it's actually very straightforward. Every pixel has so let me draw out a pixel right here. One pixel includes right here a chain of 3 and then 3 double crochet stitches, okay? So it's always, each pixel is a chain of 3 and 3 double crochets, okay? That is each pixel. So no matter where you are, However, when you're doing an increase, you need an edge in order to add the chain of 3 and the 3 double crochets to it, which is why you're making a chain of 6. So part of the chain of 6 is the chain of 3, and then you have 3 spaces left to put the 3 double crochets in. Now on this side and this side, you're doing a decrease. And the decreasing means that you need to do a few slip stitches to get to a point where you then make a chain of 3, and then the rest of the stitches, which will be the 3 double crochet stitches. Okay, now that you know the basics of it, and it may still be confusing if you're a beginner, I will go slow and we're going to go through each of these, okay? And I will show to you where we are. And I highly recommend, highly recommend, and I'm going to emphasize that, highly recommend. I know it sounds a little annoying, but I really do believe that using a pen while you go through it, and it doesn't matter what pen or pencil, I prefer pencil or pen that is erasable. These are erasable. So I can check off where I am, okay? And I'm going to do that as we go through. So first, make a chain of 6 because we are right on the edge here, so we're going to need that as a foundation. So as I said earlier, part of the chain of 6 is a chain of 3. So we're going to ignore the last 3 chains that we made, and we're going to place a double crochet, 1 in each, in the first 3 double crochets that you made. Where you're putting them in, it doesn't matter. You can do it in the back bump, you're going to do it in the back loop, in a front loop, it doesn't matter because you're going to turn and twist your little pixels anyways. Once you're done, you made your very first pixel. This is your first pixel, so we're going to take our pen or pencil, whatever you want to use, and you're going to check it off. We did this one, okay? So now our arrow tells us to go over here, okay? Now you could also go this way. I have been getting in a habit of starting over here and then working my way over. So I like to make my arrows first, okay? So it's kind of like in a zigzag, as you can tell. That's kind of how we're working. So you're going from pixel 1 to pixel 2, but pixel 2 is still on the edge. So that means you are still going to need a chain of 6. So chain of 6. And now place your double crochets in the first, second, and third. Now, once you're done, you made your second pixel, but it may look a little funky, and this is where the part comes in where a lot of people get confused. What do I do now? Well, you need to flip now. So you're going to take, and this is the easiest way to do it, so you don't have to, change the one that you have in your hand. So twist this one around such that your hook can go into the chain space right here. So on the edge here is where the chain of 3 is. That's where you need to go into. And you're going to make a slip stitch. And now they are connected. So let me hold it this way just to make it more clear where we are. Okay, so we now did pixel 2. Check it off so you can see where we are. We're right in this point right here. Okay, so we made 1, 2. Now we're right here. We're going in this direction. And you can see we are in the increasing still. So once we finish the third pixel, which is this one right here, we still have to increase. So, but we're currently in the middle of it. And as I said, in the middle, we're making a chain of 3. So because we're not on the edge, and you can kind of tell here, we're not on the edge, we're in the center of it, we need to make a chain of 3. Once you've done a chain of 3, you're going to place your 3 double crochets right into that chain space right there. And now we finished the third pixel. I'm kind of laying it out like that so you can see where we are. So we made the third pixel right here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So now we're going in this direction, and as you can see, these arrows are matching, which means you're going to do a chain of 6 because we're right on the edge. Okay, so chain of 6, and place 1 double crochet in each of the first, second, and third chain that you made. Once you're done, you now need to connect your pixel again to a chain space. And this is the one right here that you need to do. So flip your work. You can flip either this or this. Just one of them needs to be flipped like this. And you need to go into this chain space right here. Look how I'm holding it, right? So right in here, you're going to do your slip stitch. So now they're connected. So let me lay it out again so you know where we are, okay? Right in this spot. we're going over in this direction. So we just made this pixel. So we're now going in this direction. So we have 2 spots right here where we need to do a chain of 3. So you can totally write it down over here if you want, so you know exactly when you're doing your chain of 3. We have a few more over here, just that you know that. I'm going to write them down so you know exactly where we are. Okay, so we did this one, so now we need to do this one and this one. So we have 2 pixels that are exactly the same. Start with chain of 3, 3 double crochets, slip stitch, chain of 3, 3 double crochets, and then we keep going from there. So now let's do that. So we have a chain of 3. So the way I'm holding it is like as if this would be reversed, right? So I'm making my chain of 3, so you can see we're going in this direction, right? But I'm holding it as a righty, so obviously we turn our work. So chain of 3, and then into that chain space you're going to place your 3 double crochets. So now slip stitch to the neighboring pixel, and one more time chain of 3 because we're still not on the edge there, and your 3 double crochets. You can see we're now on the edge. So what do we have to do now? So I'm going to flip my work so you know exactly where we are. Okay, so we have these done. So I'm going to check it off. We did this one and we did this one. So now's the question, are we going to do an increase or are we going to do a decrease? So we're going to look at this arrow right here. Does it match the increasing one or the decreasing one? Well, it matches the decreasing one, which means we're going to now do slip stitches, 3 of them, and a chain of 3. So that replaces the chain of 6. So the chain of 6 is only for increasing. And for decreasing, we're going to do on the edge 3 slip stitches and a chain of 3. So let's do that. So the question for you would be now, where am I putting your slip stitches? Well, you have 3 double crochets and a chain space. So I like to just go into those, spread them out, and make your slip stitches. So I like to go simply right into those double crochets that I made and made a slip stitch. Okay, now I'm going to make my chain of 3, and now I'm going to place my 3 double crochets right into this chain space. So the double crochets always go into the chain spaces. Now I finished that, I need to slip stitch to the neighboring pixel. So let's check off what we did. Okay, so we did this pixel right here. Okay, I checked it off. So now we need to do this direction. We're following this arrow. So we have this pixel and this pixel right here. Okay, so we have a chain of 3 and 3 double crochets and another chain of 3 and 3 double crochets. There's a slip stitch in between, of course. So let's do that. So chain of 3, and then do your double crochet stitches right into the chain space. Now slip stitch to the neighboring pixel and chain of 3 and your 3 double crochet stitches. Now we're at the edge again. So this is how it looks like. So let's check it off. We did this one and we did this one. Okay, so we're now at the edge. So what do we do now? We're going to look at this arrow right here. We're going from one side to another. So this arrow matches which one? The increasing or the decreasing? It matches the decreasing, which means we're again going to do 3 slip stitches and a chain of 3 in order to go make this pixel, and then we go over to this one. We're going to turn our work and we're going to do our 3 slip stitches. And now chain of 3 and now 3 double crochets. Now slip stitch to the neighboring pixel. Again, chain of 3, we're in the middle of it, and then you finish it up with your 3 double crochets. Now you're going to do a slip stitch to the neighboring pixel. We're again on the edge, so let me hold it like this so you can see where we are. So we finished this pixel and this pixel. So now we're following this arrow to finish our entire rectangle. So this arrow matches our decreasing, which means we're going to do our 3 slip stitches, chain of 3, and then 3 double crochet stitches. So let's do that. This is our last pixel for this tiny rectangle. So again, 3 slip stitches, chain of 3, and into the chain space, 3 double crochets. And slip stitch to the neighboring pixel. If you don't like that you're not landing into the corner, you can now at this point just slip stitch right into the corner. So that way you literally finish at the corner like this. And then you finished your pixel and therefore your pixel graph. So you can see I take a lot of notes, I write things down, I make my arrows because I prefer using a pixel graph. I know exactly where I am. That also tells me when I need to turn and whether I'm doing increasing or decreasing. It can be hard to write this down. A written pattern for corner to corner is going to tell you how many pixels you're going to do, but it's not going to give you your directions and things like that. It will tell you when you're in a corner, and once you're in a corner, you have to then switch from increasing to decreasing. That's what's going to tell you in a written pattern. So a graph is so much easier to work with. I hope this tutorial helped you in order to figure out how to use a pixel graph in order to turn it into a corner to corner project. In this case, a small little rectangle for me, but you are actually going to do the big one. So let me remind you again, you're doing this one right here. So you would obviously make your lines and say everything in this direction is increase, everything in this direction is increase, and then decrease and decrease. And then I highly recommend making your little zigzag arrows in order to know exactly when you're turning and when you're doing what. So if you take notes on this pixel, feel free to print it out the way I did. And then make your notes the way I wrote it on the small one. Just make it on the big one, and you're going to have so much easier time going through this rectangle. And once you're done, you're going to have a rectangle like this. This is part 1 of the Mystery Crochet Along. So you can see that I started in this corner. I worked my way all the way over here, and you do want a little bit of yarn left over here. So make sure you cut a decent amount, just in case. You're going to need a little bit of that. So I'll probably cut about 2 feet roughly. So just that you have something for later. Obviously, I can't tell you yet for what, but you will see. Okay, so have a little bit of yarn and cut off before we're moving on to part 2. Remember, the written pattern as well as the graph is going to be available on my website with ads, but it's free, or in my membership without any ads. Once you are done, make sure you post your pictures into my Facebook group called Crocheting with Nikki with the corresponding hashtag so I can see and celebrate you. I hope to see you also very quickly back to part 2, which happens in a couple of days. If you're watching this past the time when we're actually making this, then you will see part 2 pop up here. And you will just then click on that and jump right over to part 2. If you're doing this live with me, you're going to have to wait until part 2 comes out in a couple of days. I hope to see you back here in part 2. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the bell to get a notification next time I publish a video or go live. Now go ahead and watch the next video. You're going to want to, I promise you do.